All right, well, great. I think we will get started now. Welcome to StraightUp Solar Solar 101, part of a continuing webinar series that StraightUp Solar is providing. You can see all past webinars on our YouTube channel at www.straightupsolar.com. My name is Eric Schneider. I am a Director of Business Development with StraightUp Solar, and joining me today on the webinar is Steve O'Rourke, a project developer. A little background about myself. I've been with the company for a year, doing marketing and business development. Most specifically, I help manage the Grow Solar St. Louis and Grow Solar Metro East group buy programs that will be launching next week at Earth Day. So keep your ears open for that program. Also been involved with the St. Louis Green Business Challenge with my previous employers. And I'm really excited to be joined by Steve O'Rourke, our project developer. Steve is a photovoltaic solar system owner, electric car driver, all-around good guy, and he has over 10 years experience in residential and commercial sales. Steve's a very talented individual and owns a NABCEP certification in PV technical sales. For those of you who aren't familiar with acronyms, NABCEP stands for North American Board Certified Energy Professionals, and it's one of the highest standards that a installer, a sales professional, or an engineer should have in the solar industry. So look for the NABCEP certification when you're choosing a solar company here. So let me tell you a little bit about StraightUp Solar. Our company was founded in 2006. We were founded by Dr. Dane Glick, who is an orthopedic surgeon. When he was doing his residency in Western Kentucky, he was very much concerned about the mountaintop removal that was used for coal plants and what that did for the lungs of the people, not only the miners, but the people breathing the air and their general overall air quality. So when he became a doctor, he vowed to do something to continue his healing beyond the practice of medicine and got into solar energy. He installed the first solar array on his house, was the first solar array that StraightUp Solar did. And as he got more and more experience working around the neighborhood and installing solar arrays, he grew the company to now 1,300 installations all across central Illinois, southern Illinois, the St. Louis region, and central Missouri. Part of that growth has been due to our winning of 12 Midwest Renewable Energy Association group buy programs, which I mentioned earlier with Grow Solar St. Louis and Grow Solar Metro East. We're proud to have affiliations with the Amicus Solar Cooperative, a group of about 30 like-minded solar companies all across the country that allows us to share best practices and lower the price of purchasing for solar panels and equipment. As part of the Amicus Collaborative, we're a member of their O&M, Operations and Maintenance Collaborative, which Steve O'Rourke is also a part of. Want to mention that we offer products, REC premium panels and Tesla Powerwalls. For that, because we're such a large installer in that, we're able to offer some great warranties, 25 years on the REC panels and 10-year workmanship and production warranty here. A little bit about the vision of the company. Our vision is to care for others by creating a path for clean energy and a sustainable economy that honors our values and everybody's healthy shared future. And one of the reasons that we're most proud of in terms of caring for others is our B Corporation status. StraightUp Solar is one of about 50,000 companies all across the world that have received a certified B Corporation label that's third-party verified, which means that we are being measured on not only our financial sustainability, but our positive impact on the environment and a positive impact on our communities here. Basically, all B corporations believe that business is a force for good, and StraightUp Solar is really proud to be part of a group like Patagonia, King Arthur Flour, Method Soap, that we're all striving to make business the best it can be for the people and the planet here. So that's a little bit about StraightUp Solar here. Let me, forgot to mention our values, and why we're excited about doing this webinar today. We are very much believe in clear values. Community first, lead the solar tribe, educate, advocate, respect for people on the planet, and excellence in all we do. These are standards that we uphold as employees, and as customers, we expect you to keep us in line if we're living up to our clear values. We're excited about these webinars today because it touches on a lot of our clear values. We're presenting to the community, we're educating, and hopefully we're advocating for going solar for your home here. So let me start our presentation again. I'm really honored to have Steve O'Rourke here, our project developer, who will go through the basics of solar. So Steve, I'll turn it to you to go through the agenda and our slide deck.
Very good. Thanks, Eric. Thanks everybody for being here. It's great to be here. I love preaching the gospel of solar here. So this will be a little Solar 101. Some of the things we're going to talk about, just basically how solar works. We're going to talk about solar and your electric bill. We'll talk a little bit about the environmental and fiscal impacts, some of the solar array options, the incentives that are available, and we're going to look at some residential financing options, and then kind of what you need to do to get started. So first of all, when we look at the global energy potential, there is so much energy available from the sun. As a matter of fact, it's like we use in less than an hour, we use the amount of energy that comes from the sun in the entire year. 23,000 terawatts of energy, of solar energy. When you look at that compared to tidal, there's 0.3 terawatts. And tidal or wave energy is 0.2 to 2 terawatts. Geothermal 3. You see how much sunshine, how much it dwarfs the other sources of energy. So here's a great map of the United States when you look at the solar irradiation across the country. So you see down in the desert Southwest where we've got the most sunshine, there's 6.5 kilowatt hours per square meter per day. That's a kind of a standard unit of measure in the solar industry. In St. Louis we get, or in the St. Louis area, we get about 4.8. So it's nothing like the Mecca of the Southwest. Well, you look at the Sunshine State down in Florida, they get 5.2. We get about 90% of what they get in Miami. And then you look at Germany, where Germany leads the world for years, was leading the world in accumulated solar installations. We have the same solar irradiation in Alaska that they have in Germany. And you see Spain over there. Spain is pretty comparable to most of the Midwest. And Spain is like the Mecca in Europe for sunshine. So indeed, we get plenty of sunshine here, even though you see the clouds out there, there's plenty of sunshine here in Missouri. But just a little bit about how solar works. You got the sun that is hitting these solar arrays, and it produces DC, or direct current electricity. The solar modules produce DC power. Then the inverter will convert that DC power over to alternating current that is the same as what is used in your home, that comes from the grid. So the inverter is kind of the heart and the brains of the system. You have two sources of sunshine. You've got the grid and you've got your solar. If you're ever producing more solar than you need, more energy than you need, it just flows out onto the grid. So, and when it does flow out on the grid, you get credit for everything that goes onto the grid. So, and we'll talk a little bit about net metering. But basically, the sunshine goes onto the grid during the day, and then at night when you turn your lights on, it's going to pull it back off the grid, but you get full retail credit for that. And then the last thing is the monitoring piece. You can look on your inverter to see what kind of energy it's producing. But you can also look at an app on your phone or on your computer to show people how much energy you're producing. So it's a great way to understand more about energy and how much you're producing. And it's also a great way to brag about the clean energy you're producing to show your friends. So some of the different options that we have, the most economical is typically going to be a roof mount. And so what we're looking for is a south-facing roof. If you have an east-west facing roof that has a low tilt, that can work. But if it's a really steep tilt, then that's not ideal. Ideally, you're going to have a 30-degree roof facing 180 degrees due south and a 30-degree tilt. But we can work with all kinds of roofs. If you have a flat roof, what we have is a ballasted array that is basically there's no roof penetrations or minimal roof penetrations depending upon who your AHG or your permitting authority would be. But we will use ballasted, a ballasting system made of concrete blocks that hold the racking system down. So the big thing that we're looking for is minimal shading. We're going to look at trees to find out if you or your neighbors have any trees that are shading your property. And we're also looking at the roof age. If you got a roof that needs to be replaced in a couple of years, then we might want to, you might want to consider replacing your roof before you put the solar on it. Excuse me. If you don't have much in the roof, but you do have ground space, then a ground mounted array is a good option for you. The ground mount may be a little more expensive because there's going to be trenching costs and stuff associated with that, depending on how close the array is to your house and how far the trenching is. But if you have a lot of open space, ground mounts can be great. You can also actually have canopies and awnings and stuff that you can use that provide dual benefit, not just energy, but also provides shade for a patio or shade for windows. Again, you want to face them, as due south. And when you're doing a ground mount array, you can optimize the orientation and the tilt of the array to optimize production. So when we're sizing an array, one of the first things we want to do, we want to go out and look at your historical electrical usage. Okay, we want to see what kind of energy history you've done, and we're going to evaluate your rooftop or the ground for what kind of capacity do you have. We're also going to find out, what kind of energy efficiency you've already done, and do you have gas or electric heat? These are the kind of things that we want to find out about to try to understand what your current energy loads are like. I'm going to throw some numbers out. When we talk about kilowatts and kilowatt hours, you pay for kilowatt hours when you buy energy from your utility. But the way system sizes are rated, they're rated in kilowatts. So like, a 250 watt or 300 watt module, if we had 10 of them, that would be 3,000 watts or 3 kilowatts. So if we had 20 of those, it would be 6 kilowatts, okay? So the other thing we want to look at is on the monthly loads. In Missouri, we have a monthly true up. So at the end of the month, if you're a net exporter, then they're going to pay you the avoided costs. Whereas in Illinois, you can actually get a credit for that and bank that energy for other parts of the year. And we'll talk a little bit more about the net metering implications. So an example, if you have like a 2,000 square foot home with natural gas heating and you use 12,000 kilowatt hours a year, if you have a 6 kilowatt array that produces 7,500 kilowatt hours a year, you think 7,500 divided by 12,000, you get a 62% offset, okay? So, not quite 2/3 of your energy coming from that solar array. And that just depends. There's a lot of different variations on how much energy you're going to produce, depending upon, again, the tilt and the azimuth and the types of module and the like. But when you think about a 6 kilowatt array, that's only about less than 400 square feet of roof space. So again, we have tools that we can look at to determine how much space you've got and how much capacity you have. Just a little bit about the emissions avoided for the 6 kW home. That's the equivalent of not driving 13,000 miles a year. It's like charging 676,000 smartphones, or not burning 5,800 pounds of coal, or planting 88 trees that are growing for 10 years. That's just some of there's a great website that you can see down at the bottom of the EPA, has a greenhouse gas equivalence calculator. There's all kinds of fun things that you can do to figure out, what is a kilowatt hour worth, or what is this 6 kW system going to offset in terms of carbon emissions. The primary modules that we offer, Eric mentioned the REC modules. They actually have not only a 25-year production warranty, but they also have a 25-year product warranty. It's a great module. That's what we sell the most of. We also carry LG. They also have a 25-year production warranty. They have this really good, a very stealthy black on black. It's called their LG Neon. And so if you have an array that maybe is on the front of the house or the side of the house it's facing, and you want something that looks a little stealthier, this may be a better option for you. I happen to have a home where I'm on the corner lot, And so the people driving up the street see the back of my house, and they see this black solar array. This is a picture of it up close. I'm actually standing on the railing of my deck. But when you look at this from across the street, you can hardly see it. That's what the black solar array looks like. So this may be an option for you if you're really concerned about aesthetics. I mentioned the inverters. So the inverters convert DC energy to AC. There are string inverters, are very common. Microinverters are actually, there's one microinverter per module. Those got pretty, they're easy to expand, and they optimize the energy for each module. And then there is also hybrid inverters that have a string inverter plus what they call DC optimizers, which optimize, again, the production of each module. Typically, most systems are grid tied. So basically, when you are tied to the grid, and if you need energy more than you are producing, you pull it from the grid. If you're producing more, you push it onto the grid. But if the grid goes down, you are down. That's this automatic anti-islanding. So the inverter is always looking for a grid signal, and it's going to match the exact frequency of that grid signal. If it doesn't detect a grid signal, it's automatically going to shut down. And the reason why is we don't want to electrocute the line workers, the linemen who are out fixing the utility poles. If you want, you can go back, be off grid. You can have a battery backup system. If you want to have a backup system like the Tesla Powerwall or other battery backup systems, you can do that. It's more expensive, but it's an option for you if that's important to you. What we do is we typically size the inverter to the DC power rating of the solar modules, and generally it's like 80%. So like on that a 6 kW, we'd have like a 4.5 or 5 kW AC powered inverter. So we offer, we talked about the different types of inverters. The SMA is a string inverter that's got a 10, 15, and 20-year warranty options. SolarEdge is also a string inverter, but it's got those DC optimizers, the power optimizers on each panel, and it offers module level monitoring. It also has a 25-year optimizer warranty, and the inverter is a 12-year warranty that can be extended up to 20 or 25 years. The in-phase microinverters, they have a 25-year warranty. So a lot of people like that because it's basically the whole system, the modules and the inverters are all covered for 25 years. And that actually, again, that converts the DC to AC at the module level. So you also have module level monitoring. So a little bit about storage. So we talked about this backup power in a grid outage. Again, the PV systems are designed to shut down when there's a grid outage. So if the grid is off, the solar's off. However, there's some options that allow you to store your solar energy in batteries to use when the grid is down. That's particularly helpful when you have time of use. In some states, they have the power gets more expensive at certain times of the day when it's peak, and so they charge more. And so that's a great option to use batteries to actually not just as a battery backup, but to use the battery power when the power from the utility is the most expensive. In Ameren, generally we don't have that. So most people are using it here for just backup purposes. StraightUp Solar is a Tesla Powerwall installer, certified installer for both Missouri and Illinois. So the big thing a lot of folks are interested in is using solar as a hedge against rising electricity costs. So if you think about, if we look at your currently, if you're paying 10 cents a kilowatt hour, now that may be 12 cents in the summertime and 8 or 9 cents in the wintertime, but we're just call it 8 cents a kilowatt hour. If we had 4% rate inflation, we used to have 8 to 10% 4 or 5 years ago, or 5, 6, 8 years ago. Now it's down, Ameren is committed to 2.85% for the next 5 years. We don't know what it's going to be, but this is what it looked like if it was 4% a year. That red line is what the utility rate, the utility cost would be. If you bought solar, the levelized cost, it depends on what the incentives are and what the prices and everything, but it's going to be less than the cost of grid power is now. It's more like 4 or 5 cents a kilowatt hour. So you are buying this basically 30 years worth of energy at a cost less than what you're paying for grid power now. That's a great way to look at rationalizing. If somebody asks you, hey, if you could buy as many gallons of gas as you wanted for 50 cents a gallon and you didn't have to store it, how much gasoline would you buy? If you're never planning to go with an electric car, you may say, hey, I'll buy 30 years worth of electricity. In this case, the electricity, you're always going to be using electricity. So it's just a great deal. And if you go to sell your home, the value of your home will go up because you have solar on it. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the net metering. We talked about electric loads in your house, you're going to pull from your solar first. And if you need more than you're producing, you just pull that from the grid. If your solar exceeds your loads, then that excess grid power, excess kilowatt hours are just sent out to the grid. And then at the end of the month, you just pay for whatever the difference is, that net difference. So if I pulled 200 kilowatt hours off the grid and I put 50 kilowatt hours onto the grid, then I only pay for 150. That's what we call the net metering. So as I mentioned earlier, the laws vary by state. And on the caps, we're capped at 100 kilowatts here in Missouri. In Illinois, it's 2 megawatts. And the true-up period is every month here in Missouri. But over in Illinois, you can actually produce extra energy in the summertime to carry your winter loads. And that's particularly helpful if you have electric heat, for example. You have high energy bills in the wintertime, high electricity bills. You can store extra energy in the summertime to cover those bills. Hopefully we'll get that in Missouri sooner or later. We need more people to write to your legislator and tell them that. So if you're inclined to do so, please do. Anyway, so if you're a net exporter, you can carry that over in Illinois, the kilowatt hours over in Illinois, or you'll get a credit on your bill in Missouri. And I got an example that I can walk through. So here is like a typical, the green is your solar curve. In the longer days of summer, you're going to be producing more energy than the shorter days in the winter. Okay, so you see that natural kind of a bell-shaped curve on the green bars. Your loads really depend. I mean, it depends on, here maybe you have lights on more during the winter time. As the days get a little longer, you use a little less energy in March, in April. So your load curve may differ from this, but this is what it could look like. And so you look at your solar production and your consumption. So here's your net usage or the credit. So you see in this case, we had a net excess exported of 108 kilowatt hours. So we produced 117% of our usage. And so, we're going to get $3.14, credited to our bill in Missouri. All right. But if you look at this, so like this is a 6 kW array that's optimally oriented, it's going to produce almost 8,200 kilowatt hours of energy. And if your loads were 9,400, 9,450, you're producing almost 90% of your loads from solar. So here's kind of what an Ameren Missouri bill looks like. So if this isn't exactly what that other example was, but if you had a total kilowatt hours pulled from the grid of 354, but you exported 462, so this is where you exported more than you pulled off, then you had this net excess generation kilowatt hours of 108. So you have no charge for the energy because you didn't use any. You actually they owe you, and so this 108 times 2.9% is the avoided energy cost. That's $3.13. So because you still have to pay that $9 customer service charge at all times, then your net bill is $6.59. So it's a pretty sweet deal. My first year with solar, I had like a $13 bill, and then I went out and got an electric car. So I've never seen those really, really tiny bills since then. Let's talk just a little bit about incentives. So the big linchpin is the federal investment tax credit. Excuse me, that's 26%. It was 30%, it dropped to 26% in 2020. It's going to drop to 22% in 2021, and it's actually 0% in 2022 for residential. Commercial, it'll drop to 10% for businesses. You do need to have the tax appetite in order to take the credit. So if you are on a fixed income and you basically don't pay any taxes, then you're not going to be able to use that tax credit. So you need to make sure that you do have a tax appetite. We also, the cover the installation and roof reinforcement if it's needed to support the solar panels. So if the total cost of this, if we need to upgrade your electrical distribution system, or if we need to do some improvements to your roof, all that is covered by that investment tax credit. Now, again, the home must be owned by the taxpayer. These are just some of the considerations for the what we call the investment tax credit, the ITC. So here's kind of an example. If your W-2 income is $75,000 and you got $25,000 in deductions, so your taxable income is 50 grand. If you are at a 20% tax bracket, your tax liability is $10,000. So let's just say your solar array is $20,000. You're going to get a 26% tax credit is $5,200. So your net tax liability is only going to be $4,800, not $10,000. Any questions on that? Are we doing all right? All right, we can take some more questions at the end if we like. Now, here's a great incentive if you're over in Illinois. The Illinois Renewable Energy Credits, or we call them solar SRECs for Solar Renewable Energy Credits. This was established back in 2016 by the Future Energy Jobs Act. Utilities are required to get at least 25% of their energy from renewable sources by 2025. So essentially, they have to set aside money to purchase this renewable energy from households. And this is all measured with SRECs. One SREC equals 1,000 kilowatt hours or 1 megawatt hour of energy. Your typical home is going to produce about 10 megawatt hours a year, receive 10 SRECs per year. So, the example that I used with that 6 kW, and it was like 8 megawatt hours a year or 8 SRECs per year. So the contracts for these SRECs, they're going to pay you for SRECs for a period of 15 years of production. They're going to estimate the production over 15 years, but the SRECs are paid up front. And then we work with an aggregator called Carbon Solutions Group. They will aggregate the SRECs to sell to the Illinois Power Authority, and then Carbon Solutions Group will distribute the funds to you. So the value of this system, the value of these SRECs on a 6 kW system might be almost $7,600. In Missouri, we have a solar rebate. All the investor-owned utilities are required to pay it's $250 per kilowatt or 25 cents a watt. This was passed in the grid modernization bill back in 2018 that funded this, provided the rebate funding again. Again, it's offered by just the investor-owned utilities. So it's Ameren, KCP&L or Evergy, and then Liberty or Empire down in the Joplin area. If you're under a co-op or a municipal utility, they are not required to pay a rebate. Again, the rebate is $250 per kilowatt. So in the example in our 6 kW example we've been using, it'd be a $1,500 rebate. So StraightUp Solar will provide we submit the interconnection application and the rebate application to the utility, to Ameren in this case. Once the bidirectional meters are installed, that's like the last piece after the installation is complete. The bidirectional meter, which is going to keep track of how much energy is exported and how much energy is imported from the grid. Once that's installed, then the rebate check is going to be processed a few weeks later. That check will be sent directly to you as a customer. And that's taxable income unless you choose to just take that off of the array price. So if that $20,000 price and we took off the $1,500 to make it $1,850, then you could take the tax credit off of the $1,850 rather than off the $20,000, and then that is not taxable income. Talk to your accountant about what works best for you, but you can do it either way. The maximum size for a residential array is 25 kilowatts, and it's 150 kilowatts for commercial. That's for the rebate. I mentioned earlier the net metering cap for commercial is 100 kilowatts. So we have some financing options for the residential community. This Clean Energy Credit Union was actually founded, Eric mentioned the Amicus Cooperative that StraightUp is a part of. This was founded by the Amicus Cooperative members back in like 2016. All this requires is a $250 down payment up front. And then it's 0% for the short term. Basically what they're doing is they're covering that investment tax credit, the 26% of the total cost. And then you could get an 18-month loan to cover the federal ITC until those taxes are due. And then once the loan kicks in, it's 2.99% interest rate for a 12-year loan, and that's 74% of the total project cost. So this is a great way to limit, the amount of out of pocket, and it's an easy way to finance this clean energy. Great option. Another option in Missouri is the PACE program. This is the Property Assessed Clean Energy. Missouri passed this. It was actually a bipartisan legislature passed this back in 2010. Right around then was when we had the crash of '08 and all the residential housing market, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac kind of stepped in and kiboshed it for a few years, but they finally got it worked out in like 2013 or 2014. Right now we're offering financing through Y Green Energy Fund. That's a nationwide company, and they offer a 20-year loan to pay for solar. So if you check out, we got a website, a page on our website for PACE that gives you a little more idea how it works. Essentially, what this does, it's a special tax assessment that you elect on your property. And that tax assessment, so the PACE program pays for the solar array up front, and then you just have a special assessment on your property tax that goes to pay back the program. If you go to sell your house, the purchaser, the home buyer, is going to assume that property tax. So that'll just be something you disclose on your seller's statement. But they inherit, not only they inherit that property tax, but they also get the array that goes with it. So it's a great way to finance solar here in Missouri. So everybody's excited about how to get your project started. The first thing you do is you share some basic information about your house. So we need your address. We need 12 months of utility bills. If it's a brand new home, if it's under construction, we're going to need a little bit of information about square footage. We can estimate what we think your home is going to use. Ameren has some guidelines on what we can do to project that. So that's the first thing, is we want to try to size the system appropriately for your home and for your roof or how much space you have. We'll also, if you have some issues around budget or what, we can talk about, because you can put as much solar on your roof. Your roof might be able to put 10 kilowatts, but you know what? You can only really deal with 5 kilowatts. And so we can work with you in that way. Once we put together a proposal, you're going to receive this customized proposal that shows the layout on your roof. It'll show you the price of the array, all the incentives, and your project developer will walk through all those details with you, answer all of your questions. Once you agree to move forward, then you work with a project manager. The project manager is going to take you through the engineer design and permitting process, the interconnection application process with the utility. Your project manager will become your point of contact after you enter into an agreement, a contract. And then once all this is installed, we're gonna, we set a date to get this installed after we've got the permits and the interconnection approvals and everything. The installation crew comes out, they will build it, and then we'll have the building inspector, the permitting agency come in and inspect it to make sure it meets all the codes and everything. And then the utility will come in and install the bidirectional meter, and then we will energize your system. And as we mentioned, if you get a rebate from the utility, that'll come just a few weeks after your system's energized. And after that, you get to just smile whenever the sun comes out, the sun shines. So we went through a lot very quickly. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer the questions. I'm also, if questions come up later on, I welcome you to email me or call. If I can't take your call, please leave a message. I will call you back. I love talking about this, and I love being able to help people understand how solar works and how it can be beneficial. Educate and inspire.